Welcome to the guest house.
He's a humble Cornell grad, the man who revitalized the Barstool Rundown, the producer of the Dave Portnoy Show, Sunday Conversations, the Barstool Pro Football Show, and a fan favorite of the Stoolies. You can find his work on barstoolsports.com, Barstool Sports on YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. The first guest to ever appear or be invited onto the Run Amuck podcast, Michael Angelo.
Yes.
Welcome to the program.
Welcome. I might need a minute to cry. That was a fucking introduction.
Again,
I saw my whole life flash in front of my eyes.
Yeah,
in a
we
good
ran
way.
it down for you, and
Yeah.
we are going to get into all of it from you to Barstool to the history of Dave Portnoy. We're going to be talking about Frank the Tank, like I mentioned. But first things first, I'm going to let you explain to the people kind of some of the projects that you're currently working on so they have a chance to check them out. So what do you do at Barstool Sports?
Okay, so as you mentioned in the intro, wear a few different hats, and it's funny. I was just talking to my mom about all the stuff I've been doing, and I was reflecting that 4 months ago I was sitting at home on my bed right here. My one task was just editing the rundown. I was also, and still kind of am, managing the equipment. So 6 months ago, I was managing the equipment and just doing the rundown. And then 6 months later, I have all of these awesome new projects and opportunities that I've been so lucky to have placed into my lap. So I'll walk you through a day in the life, I guess.
Yeah.
So I am working on the NFL Pro Football Show with Deion Sanders, Dave, Big Cat, and Casey. And in that show, there are two produced pieces that I produce and edit. So one is the Sunday Conversations with Caleb and Roan, who are so fucking talented and so genius in the way that they interview people that they love them and they love doing the interviews, but they're so weird and they're probably so out of the normal of what these professional athletes and celebrities are used to that
Caleb is one of the funniest dudes on the planet. I
He's
swear to
incredible.
God. Yeah.
He's unbelievable. He is also, I don't know, he's an unbelievable editor.
Really?
Yeah. So he is the most, I want to say perfectionist, but sometimes that has a negative connotation, but it is not in this case. He knows exactly. And it's almost I think he knows even before he sits down with these people, exactly what the cuts are going to be in the interview edit process, which, could happen 5-6 days later. He is so sharp in tune with what he knows is funny and what he knows works and what he knows will be such a ridiculous curveball for the people that he's interviewing. Him and Roan, it's been awesome working with them, really.
Man, and how crazy is it as someone who, you're obviously an NFL fan yourself, a sports guy. Now you're beside guys like Deion Sanders and Hall of Famers who are on Sunday Conversations. Can you even believe that that's real sometimes?
It's pretty wild. The most recent kind of what the fuck, how did I end up here moment was another one of the Sunday Conversations. But this week a guest had backed out at the last second. So I believe it was Caleb's idea. Wanted to have the idea of working with what we had. So he took Deion Sanders and paired him with Stu Feiner, and who at this point they were beefing on Twitter or something. I think Stu was saying that Deion on the NFL show was flat. So there was a bit of back and forth about that.
I saw the beef on stool scenes a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. But so it was just and that was the week a guest backed out. So Caleb had the idea to throw them in a room together. And we did it early before they taped one of the shows. So it was at 8:30 and I'm standing in a room Stu Feiner, who, I've known my whole life. I've watched Two for the Money, that guy that he's based off of, recognizable face. And then fucking Deion Sanders. And then behind me, Caleb, who I've been a huge fan of since he started. I was a Barstool fanboy until 8 months ago when I started working here. So Oh, it was almost coolest to be next to Caleb because
Yeah.
he's someone I've looked up to as like a creative person. But yeah, being caught in the vortex of Deion
Oh,
and
man.
Stu and Caleb at like fucking 8:30 in the morning before I had a cup of coffee
Yeah.
was definitely like a holy shit. Like this is a wild place.
Look, Stu's a great guy, electric.
Yeah.
He's a fucking crazy person. Like before 8:30 without a coffee. I mean, I I don't know, man. I don't know if I could take that. He's a hilarious guy.
He's unbelievable. He's like the sweetest, nicest guy too.
Yeah.
The only other crazier person I know than Stu is my buddy from college, David Duber, and he's like a Stu Finer fucking super fan. So even before I taped that show, I had Stu FaceTime my friend, and like he was
Oh, that's awesome.
I think he was like he works for his dad, so he's at his dad's office, like, and like Stu treated that FaceTime because seriously, I wanted to like. It's like, Stu, this guy loves you. It would make his year if you got on the phone with him. And you know, that's right before taping. It was probably a bad move to even ask Stu because it was probably slightly distracting.
Mhm.
But he took the phone and like again, like it was, you know, 8 cameras pointed at him for a movie or just me and him in a green room talking to my buddy. He brought the fucking like freight train of energy. And I think my friend ended up inviting him to his wedding. So
I love it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Reunite whenever that takes place.
Now, Barstool has such a weird and random process of finally hiring people full time. I know Big T was just talking to Dave on radio and got hired on the spot. You were just sitting there on the plane doing your thing. Did you expect the full time offer when it came, or did that kind of catch you off guard?
Actually, shout out at least 2 of the fucking interns that bust their ass every day there just got made full time today.
Owen.
On the rundown.
Yeah.
And shit. I think it was Owen and Evan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that Owen did. Yeah.
Yeah. It was dope.
That's awesome.
So the hiring process, so I guess like for me personally, I, like you said, how like, you know, it could have come out of nowhere, like Dave finds out and then he snaps his fingers and it happens, or, you know, whatever way it could have happened. Like, I can't speak to that because I don't know, like, you know, who. Yeah, I'll just say, like, personally, like, it did feel like it took long that I was, I don't even know if you asked that. Maybe that's just me projecting.
No, just like, yeah, like how much did it catch you off guard? Yeah, were you maybe expecting it early?
It caught me off guard because at that point I was like so used to, I was like, I had started the wheels turning of like, okay, like it's been 6+ months. Like, I think I'm kind of like doing a really good job. Like, but then also at the same time, and I said this, you know, to the people I met with, like, it was also the fucking worst year in the entire world in like, you know, it was like not the time for a self-conscious, like anxious person to be like at his company being like, hey, why aren't you guys paying me more?
Yeah.
So I was, and I also like, I knew that like it was going to be made right. Not that it was wrong. Again, like it was my choice to start at, and I'm actually 29. I think a lot of people think I'm like younger, and but like, yeah, I took like, it was a no-brainer, but it was, I took a pay cut and it was like, well, that doesn't matter, but like, it was a no-brainer. I would have been working there for free. I would have been doing that. And still would be. But yes, it did come out of nowhere and it was awesome. It was very cool to find out on the rundown.
Yeah.
There's like 2 epic moments in my life that I'll never forget. The first one took place like right here at my desk. The first Skype rundown we had. The very first one where like, and also in the back of my head, like, my name's Michael Angelo. Like, that follows me everywhere I go.
Oh yeah.
And at a place like this, I think I was there for I was there for like a month, and then we went on lockdown. But even in that month, I was kind of surprised that there wasn't like more rumblings about like what the fuck, this kid's name is like
Yeah,
Michael.
yeah. The Barstool Reddit going off. Yeah.
Yeah. So then sitting at this desk, like I like awkwardly introduced myself to Dave the one time I had seen him like in the office, but I had not like communicated with him or interacted with him at all up until this first Skype. So I was fucking nervous. Like I didn't know, I had never used Skype or Zoom. And like, at that point I was like, oh my God, I'm about to be on a Zoom call with like the, top 3 people at the company. Like, crazy time. Like everyone's going to want to hear their reactions to New York City being locked down. And like, it all goes through my little laptop and I'm like a clumsy person. I'm like nervous, worried about like spilling, my coffee on the keyboard or this or that. So all of that in my head, and then like the rundown starts with them being like, do you guys know we have a fucking guy named Michael Angelo here?
Was that the first thing they said? Like one of them?
So I think he started, Dave was like sitting on a park bench.
Oh God, I remember. Yeah.
So he started, I think it was more that he was bitching that Pete like put me in charge because they didn't know me. And it was like, Pete is All Biz Pete.
Of course,
Yeah. So I think Dave was like, yeah, we got like, I think Dave was like surprised that it worked, which had nothing to do with me. It was just lucky that it did work. But I think he was like, yeah, I'm surprised this is working. Like we got fucking Michael Angelo on the case.
It was a low bar to jump over, but you did it.
Yeah. No,
but the Stoolies have latched on to you as a fan favorite, which is tough to do in the Barstool arena. How do you feel about being in the Barstool world in terms of dealing with the Stoolies? It's tough to shy away from the criticism. It's partially why I've always kind of been scared to even apply there because it is such a bright spotlight on you. How is that dealing with people who are going to, you're going to put out a piece of content, 50% of them are going to say, this is the worst shit I've ever seen in my life. The other half are going to say, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. How is it?
Well, I mean, it's so true what you just said. Like it's always, and I'll like full disclosure, like I do read the comments for fucking everything that I work on, of course, but then, I think everyone reads comments. So I am like in tune with what people are saying. And like, it's so right. Like people are either like, this shit makes me want to like, what can I say here? Like, I want to gouge my eyes out watching this. I hate you. Or it's like, oh, this person's fucking awesome. Like there's no middle ground with this audience, which is funny, but it's also like, I keep waiting for, I don't know, for like, I know it'll catch up to me and I'll get ripped on for shit and this and that. But until then, I think like, I'm confident that I just try to like keep things within like my own means. And I don't mean to like, I don't want to like try to do, like, I've been making videos since I'm 8 years old. I have been an attention whore, attention spotlight seeking, psycho at times, but like at this place, because like you will get put on blast if you do something disingenuous or you try to, like even like hamming it up for the camera, like, which is, criticism of like any media person, not even just Barstool, but, it's like definitely not a calm day, like ever in the office. Cause it always just feels like there's something that could just, happen that, and then it's like, oh, next thing you know, there's like 4 cameras documenting it. And like, and also the producers and editors, like it's our job to mine out those like crazy moments at Barstool. So like knowing that, and then having a moment like that happen around me, if that were to happen, like in the back of my head, I know that like, Max that sits next to me is going to like zoom in on my face and I'm like, really stumbling over words and shit. So it's a high pressure environment, but,
and then you're going to have to relive that moment in editing later. Like,
it's
just like so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, Dave talks a lot about the value of weird brains. And after seeing your Giants fan ritual video, the dad finding the jewel sketch, and that legendary commissioned portrait of you done by that Asian gentleman on the street, it seems that you have exactly that weird brain in the best way possible. how integral is that weird brain in order to kind of find your niche in content? And do you think Dave, also a little side note, do you think Dave has seen any of these older sketches?
Wait, I have to start with I can't
Asian
believe
gentleman?
you called out the Asian gentleman. Yeah.
Man, that is my favorite picture on the internet, dude. When you, oh man, when you're
that's
sitting,
not just a picture. That's a whole photo series. I was at my sister's wedding in the city with my cousin, who's a weird brain and an incredible photographer. And I was like in the peak of like college. So it was my sister's wedding. I had a great time with my family, this and that. But like when things ended at midnight, I was like, I need to like fucking let it rip like in New York City. So I could say this, right? I like got very high in Central Park.
Oh, say whatever you want, dude. Yeah, there are no filters on the pod. Yeah, say whatever you want.
My cousin and my brother-in-law, who I went to high school with, whose nickname was Donnie Blaze. It was me, Donnie Blaze, and my cousin, like high, walking around the city, like fucked up after. I think it was the night before the wedding, and I actually missed an important thing that I was supposed to be at the party after. But long story short, my cousin just had a dope camera and dope photography skills, and I was like, yeah, this is a good segue into the weird brain. My weird brain was like popping off, and I was like, I need to vent, I need to release. And the weird brain took over, and I ended up getting like a 45-minute, like beautiful painting of myself with my shirt.
We're going to have the picture right there.
Okay.
Because it's spectacular, dude. Like you can tell a photographer took it because you see this man sketching the photo. Like you can see the photo and you just have no idea what the fuck it looks like at this point. Yep. And you're sitting up straight and he just, I mean, look, I don't know if he's listening right now, if he stumbled on this podcast. I don't want to hurt his feelings, but man, he dropped the ball. That was his shot. He didn't know that photo was going to be on the internet.
I know. Yeah.
I wonder how it affected his market value. Do you ever think of that before you're going to sleep? Like you may have ruined a street artist's career.
Well, I wasn't particularly happy with the final product. I know it's beautiful, but at least and I honestly like shied away from that photo because I thought that I looked so ugly in the guy's painting that it like I didn't want that to like take over as my own image of myself.
People's perception of you. Maybe he does kind of look like that. I never really thought about that before. Now you kind of
looking in the mirror and like seeing the painting. Like,
You kind of alluded to it, but as the internet knows, the deep corners of the internet and the Michael Angelo Day One fans know, you're not one to shy away from a party. So much so that you took a swift punch to the face just moments into going back to visit college. Is it true it happened because you wandered into a frat looking for mushrooms? And do you carry a permanent beef towards hockey bros after the incident?
Wait, did I tell you that?
No, that was we do our research on the pod.
Wait, what the fuck? Because it's true. The frat next to us was known as the like druggy frat. So I was back and I was trying to find mushrooms, and I was like, I think I was knocking like in earnest, like being like, hey, like I actually, I'm here, I'm visiting.
We're not joking around. This is an emergency situation right now, guys.
Yeah, seriously. But then it really escalated, obviously, because I got like, I don't even think I showed the craziest picture of what I looked like the morning after, but like, but yeah, I was looking for mushrooms, and I'm pretty sure I was like then frustrated that they said no. So I was like, yeah, I think I was like, what the fuck? Like, you guys are the drug frat. Like, you are supposed to have these. And then I got popped. It was like 3 good punches and then like one final exclamation point, like on my forehead. That's how the pictures look like. I have.
Oh my God. Yeah, it is like they got a good shot in.
Yeah.
How quickly did all that unfold? Did you just get like open the door? Hey, mushrooms? Nope. Boom, boom, boom. 3 punches. Like, how quickly did that go?
That's how quickly I remember it happening. And then the next day felt like 3 weeks because I just it felt like someone was like slowly drilling.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was a tough one.
Now, we're recording this on November 17th, 2020. And yesterday on YouTube, I saw on the Dave Portnoy show a recent DM slander from Dave Portnoy. We want to get into how it is being in that crazy arena, because when you're around Dave, it's such a fast-paced environment. You never know what scandal is around the corner. And this most recent DM slander is perhaps the perfect epitome of how some people view Dave Portnoy. Quick to judge and quick to ignore any context. How do you feel about situations like that after being a part of a few scandals like this and the Sam Ponder incident where him and ESPN reporter Sam Ponder got into it outside a restaurant? And again, that was taken out of context. You get a brief blurb. Obviously, you were a Dave fan beforehand, but do you have maybe even a bit more empathy for someone who gets ripped out of context, perhaps more than anyone else in media?
Well, I think like,
and maybe explain for the people the DM situation from yesterday. Like what?
So that was earlier. That was taped last week's podcast. Eddie was sent a photograph of DMs that someone he knew tangentially, I think, screenshotted a girl DMing Dave, but cropped out the part where it showed her like initiating it,
like a clear initiation.
Oh yeah,
like so like
3
flirty,
straight like kissy emojis and like as flirty as you could get.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember. I don't want to speak on what Dave said because I don't remember fully.
But you can go on the show and look that up and find it.
Yeah,
anyone on YouTube. Yeah,
it was definitely made to look like he was being like, and it wasn't even that like his response to whatever she opened up with it. Like,
you can't say anything else. I'm not going to say it either because I don't want to paraphrase, but there was like his response to her flirt. There is no other response that could be given.
Oh, are you talking about when she said she was
with the twins?
Twin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, what are you supposed to say?
The conversation did pick up. Yeah. And I checked this girl out, like incredibly hot, and so is her twin. It checks out.
Her twin is super ugly, unfortunately. I don't know what happened there.
No, but yeah, so I guess they did start. I don't know. Honestly, I don't even remember if it was the same girl that was taking the conversation out of context or not.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I think it was. That's why we were talking.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, because I'm a little fresher. Like I watched it last night. I think it was like the same situation, and it's just it's crazy to be on that side of things. But as a producer, part of you has to be salivating when things like the Sam Ponder incident pop up and Dave's yelling at someone outside a restaurant, because those things, they move the dial, right? And that's what people tune in to the Dave Portnoy show for.
Well, it's also funny. Eddie does an incredible job with he puts together the topics and what we talk about. I like chime in. I should I like assist, but he puts everything together, and it's so funny because like we'll have the ideas of what we talk about and we do still cover them, but then Dave will walk in like fresh off a conversation, and he's just like red hot, ready to go. One episode we recorded in Philly, and that one, I think it was like the second one, and we were like, Eddie and I had a lot of time to kind of prepare. So we were kind of going back and forth, and we're like, okay, we're going to do this, and that. And then we see like Dave get out of the Uber from like the 3rd floor window. And I was just checking to see like when he had arrived. And like from there, I could tell he was like on one, and it just storms up, like pops the headphones on. We start recording. He's like, fucking Brian Fitzsimmons. Like he had some of the funniest in rant, like quips I've ever heard from him. Brian Fitzsimmons is this awesome dude that was, I guess this was like the hat promotion thing, but wait, what was I just about to say? Oh yeah, one of Dave's lines was like, so yeah, they were trying to get the hat promotion going, and Brian Fitzsimmons like, we need to like have a meeting about it. So Dave went on this whole, fucking wild tangent about like how Brian Fitzsimmons is obsessed with meetings. One of the lines was like, yeah, I don't know what Brian Fitzsimmons is. It was like kind of, I think it was towards the end of the podcast, so it was like a good callback, like enough time had passed, and he was like, I wonder what the hell Brian Fitzsimmons is doing right now. He's probably having meetings about trying to have more meetings. It's just so funny. But yes, like the salivating, fun, like salacious stories, I think are like that, or sorry, not like that, are equally entertaining as like the inside Barstool. And I lump like Dave's own life into like the inside Barstool stuff, obviously, because he is Barstool. But yeah, like it's fun to be on it because we don't know what story, even like some stories that like are maybe super relevant and like sound like they're like juicy, layups. Sometimes he just like doesn't want to talk about it. He's just like gives a one-word answer.
Yeah.
Okay, on the next topic. But yeah, I think I wanted to say one thing because it was about like being so close to controversy, and like, do I have empathy for Dave for like being put in these situations where people could be, like the DM situation, like skewing the truth and just trying to do this or that. But I think Dave is so like in tune with like truthfulness and just like speaking his mind and being honest. And like, I don't even think, like, I would imagine most people have at least a millisecond of like a thought of like, oh, maybe I lied, maybe I don't. But I think he doesn't have that.
He doesn't
like,
have the doubt portion of his brain. It's just gone. Yeah.
It's just like he says what he thinks, and it's like, not to sound like a fucking like a S and his D here, but like it's always right. It's always like that's why he is where he's at and who he is. Like he's like relentlessly honest and like always right. So.
Well, Michael Angelo,
twice about controversies he's not always
I
right.
got to correct you there because there's one time when he was not right, and we're going to take you down that rabbit hole into the pool of a rundown where you were accused of muting him. And I have to ask, which was the bigger technical confusion? Trying to do a rundown where Dave insisted recording in the pool or helping Frank the Tank get his videos off of, quote, an analog machine onto a MacBook?
Okay. Well, let me
Sophie's choice.
I update, like special announcement, the hardware that is needed to begin the transfer process was ordered today.
Okay, there it is.
It should be delivered by tomorrow. Frank will not be in the office tomorrow, so we're going to circle back on Thursday.
The first man to ever have a ban on how many times he's able to come into the office.
Oh, he blew right past that. I think Dave said like 1 hour to begin with. Like he had 1 hour a week in the office.
He's too distracting.
So he sits literally right next to me, and shout out to fellow producer, editor Tom, who has not been in the office. He's been working from home for the last like week and a half, but he no longer has a desk. Like that is Frank Tang's desk. It's might as well be his home now. Frank fucking lives there. And I got to tell you, he was so not annoying or distracting.
Oh, it's awesome.
He talks all the time, and it should be annoying and distracting, but he's so like fascinatingly like wholesome and just like so energetic about not like outwardly energetic, but like you could tell like he's just so excited about like everything he's doing. So it's awesome. And I don't have this whole like me tutoring Frank thing happened because he was tweeting about whether or not he should get a MacBook for editing. And I was just like, yes. And then I was like, Frank, you know what? I could teach you a few things. I thought it was going to be a few like micro lessons here and there, but it seems more like a, year-long kind of embedded like process. I think it's going to be a process. So
I think that's a good word for it.
Yeah.
But what about Dave in the pool? How were you scared in that moment? Because you were still fairly early, and like, yes, you were Joe. You had Big Cat, Deion, you had KFC on your side, but you have Dave accusing you of something you have no idea what the hell's going on.
So I think it was like one of the times that I wasn't nervous because I knew that I wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
So it was either that like the technology was bad or it was Dave's joke. So I was kind of just sitting back because the technology would have been blamed on Pete, let's face it.
Mhm.
And if it was Dave's joke, then like obviously I would be not on the hook. So I think that one I was just leaning back and like enjoying the show. But I was recently just asked like what my favorite rundown was in, you know, whatever the last 8-9 months. And it's like, I think besides the one where they called out my name, because that was just a life moment that I'll never forget. But I think it's like pretty easily the pool rundown. Like that was just such a,
and everybody, like you had everybody tweeting out from Barstool being like, this is an all-time rundown.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
It was just all time. Like that was like an OG. I don't know when they started doing the rundowns, but the ones where, you know, Dave's in the main box, KFC's on top, and Big Cat's on bottom, like whatever, 4, 5, 6 years ago, whatever it was. But that was like, because that took the current events and that took everything out of it and was just like the three of their personalities trying to figure out like, what was going on between like their three voices and the mute button. So that was just like raw.
I love the topic list on that one too. Guys. I think it's like one topic, Dave's muted, and then one final topic. Like there's just 3 topics for that whole rundown.
Yeah. I think the topic was like Dave in a pool.
Or
that might have just been like, I think it's like the rundown live from a pool or something. You might know, you might have it pulled up, and I might be completely wrong. But
that's like that's basically exactly what it was.
It was like Dave took. It was like an unironic, unfunny tweet, but it was just like Dave tried doing the rundown from the pool, like fucking chaos ensues. Like,
but the rundown is deep in the Barstool lore, and it's something that OG Stoolies hold dearly to their hearts. But one thing, probably your highest acclaim that you get from the fans, is the way that you were able to bring back that authenticity that the rundown first originated with, and brought in a lot of contemporary editing traits. You got the zoom ins, you've got the sort of slow-mos and replays of Dave's reactions. Is there a particular person that you take your more contemporary editing style from when you added that into the rundown, or is this just kind of from years of doing sketches?
So yes to the second question. I have, since I'm 8 years old, like made my own videos. I started with like Lego stop motion videos, and that has been something that I have just always done. Like it was like a Lego Steven Spielberg movie making kit. And I just like, whenever anyone asks like why I'm interested in this industry, like I've told this story a million times, and my sister like makes fun of me, and she like quotes me as saying it word for word is how I explain it. But like that was the moment. And since then I've been making my own videos, and like truthfully, so many of them were not funny at all. But I was shooting them and I was editing them, and I learned over time that even if what I filmed wasn't that funny, there are like these cheap tricks of editing that could make a moment that's dry, you know, the way it was filmed, a little juicier or a little funnier by, you know, zooming in or turning my face red or adding a like cartoon sound effect. So I spent so much time trying to make myself funny. And there were some good videos, but a lot of them were misses. And I'm happy to admit that, because they're why I am where I'm at now, like learning from them. But trying so desperately to make myself funny with these tricks of editing was like the what's gasoline on the fire of then I struck the match and was doing stuff for actually very funny people. And it was like, okay, this works in my unfunny videos to make me funnier. Like these guys are so fucking funny on their own. Let's see what it would be like to, you know, do this or the classic zoom in. And I do think like back to the OG days, like there was that element of like low tech, low budget DIY, the Barstool difference. And I think some of the, like I admit a lot of the effects are like kind of cheesy and like not like super professional. Like when I zoom in on people's faces, which I do all the time, like it decreases the quality and it like makes it look shitty. But I think
people love.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like a throwback to the low tech Barstool difference ways of Milton and Barstool's past is like I remember actually one of the guys, I think it was Glenn Howerton, one of the Sunny creators, I just remember this quote. He said, like, what I love about comedy is it doesn't have to be like quality. Like it doesn't, not the comedy has to be quality, but like the production around it doesn't have to be. Like they made a pilot episode like about like Charlie having cancer or something with like a fucking video camera, and they sold that video into what became Always Sunny. So like I know it's a big company now and there's a lot of millions of dollars behind our sponsors and stuff, but I still think that like sacrificing a little bit of like quality for like a laugh is like what has made Barstool what it is, like that general idea. So like I have no problem getting crazy.
Yeah. And
There's been a couple of weeks where like after the second straight day of like, what the fuck is going on with the editing? Like I like am having what's it called when you seizures?
Seizure, yeah.
Michael Angelo give me seizures. Like I'll realize that I'm just on one that week and I kind of temper them, but I do like to try to add as much shit as often as I can.
And going back to one of your non-misses as a sketch, the Dragon's Den sketch is one that I can go back to every time and I die. Or, it's called Dragon's Den in Canada. We're recording in Canada. The Shark Tank sketch.
Okay.
That
is fuck,
so
if I made
gold.
a dragon movie, I must get so high that it would make sense that I didn't remember the dragon.
Oh my God, the Shark Tank. Everyone's got to go and on your Instagram and find the Shark Tank sketch because, dude, I've shown that to every demographic finds it funny. I showed that to my sister. I showed that to my friends, my coworkers. Oh my God. But going back,
for saying that. That's awesome to hear.
Behind the camera, you seem to be able to have the unique ability to stay cool under the pressure of Dave's scorn, something that, no offense, fellow producers like Dana B and Jetski have obviously cracked under. How important is it to have a thick skin around Dave?
Well, I don't have a thick skin. I am so nervous all the time still in that office, not even just around Dave. Like, it's just I'm a very nervous person, as you can probably tell by the way I'm talking right now. But I don't think it's thick skin. I think it's just like knowing the purpose and the mission. Like my life purpose is to make people laugh. And I know that's what Dave's is. And I know the other producers you're talking about too, like that's their mission too. But like, I am willing to, like, I know it's coming. I know there's going to be hopefully hundreds of moments where Dave fucking yells at me because that means I'll be here for a while, or I just start being a horrendous employee and it all happens in a week. But I know, like, even when he lashes out, like I do honestly think that when he gets angry, it's because someone is doing something that is not contributing to the mission of making people laugh. So like, if he's yelling at me, I know it's for a good reason. And I know it's because I fucked up. And it would never be anything that I like, it would be probably an honest mistake, but I know that, I would just own it. And
it comes from a legitimate place. Like, that's what it comes back to. Like, he's a truthful guy. Like, if he's yelling at you about something, you're probably in the wrong. Like, odds are, right? Yeah. I mean, and you can't get mad at that, but
I have a funny story real quick, because it was, it wasn't like, he didn't yell at me at all, but he mentioned the other day, it got cut out of the podcast, but at the end of an ad read, Dave mentioned that he like wanted to start meditating. And I'm a big like self-help, like mindfulness. I'm not a big, like I try to meditate 10 minutes a day, but I like to read about it because I am so nervous and anxious. I like to kind of arm myself with like little quotes that'll like get me through the day. But he said he wanted to meditate, so I grabbed like the most relatable and also my favorite like mindfulness book written by this news anchor turned like podcaster Dan Harris. So I went into his office, and actually that was the very first time I like walked into his office. And I handed him this book. And I was like, Dave, you mentioned last week you wanted to like try meditating. Like this is the book. Like it even says like how to start meditating without losing my edge or something. And Dave looked it over, and I could tell he was nodding his head, and he was like, oh, thanks, Michael Angelo. And then he turned it around and saw the guy who wrote it. And I don't know if he has any like beef with him, or he just looked like a news anchor that Dave didn't want to like fucking read about. And he was like, I'm not reading fucking Dan. I like threw the book back at me, and I was like, okay. So I ended up giving it to this guy.
Like you guys had talked about that at length before. Yeah, as if you should know about the author.
Right, yeah.
That's awesome.
I didn't know your hatred for like this slightly obscure like news anchor.
Now, I hate to bring these memories back, but I have to ask you, which is your grosser Barstool memory? Having to edit Feidelberg puking on the rundown, or having to edit the Magic School Bus flying into the belly button of Dan Katz?
Well, the Feidelberg one, I only had to ever do once because I knew that was going to start being a theme that would come up. So I have a super reel. So whenever it comes up, I just drop the super reel. I don't have to re-edit it and rewatch it all again. But the big cat, that's funny you said that too, because as I was thinking about like my favorite rundown episodes, that moment flashed into my head when the fucking bus finally gets into Big Cat's belly button. And actually, funny story about that. It's not that funny, and it's very like technical, but at the
go for it.
Not that technical. I didn't mean to sound like that, but so the video that I used for the bus was like a green screen video that I just ripped from YouTube. So I ultra keyed. It's like removing the green screen and let that video play, and then I used keyframes to I'm sorry,
behind the fourth wall for the people at home.
I'm high. I used the keyframes to move the green screen bus into his stomach, but I didn't realize that at the end of the video there was like a logo, and the logo was like this green like spinning globe thing, so it made it look that it goes through Big Cat's belly button and into this like grotesque like green like organ for like 2 frames, but that accentuated the disgustingness of that edit a lot more when I like was cutting social clips, and I realized it was gross. It just looked like it went through like his poop. It went through his belly button and into his small intestines. And
any follower of Big Cat knows that the man has the deepest belly button on this side of the Mississippi, and that's undebatable. So I mean, yeah, it's not far from the truth. But do you think that your time doing stand-up gigs at the Broadway, Greenwich Village, and West End Comedy Club helped prepare you for the bright lights of Barstool? And have you done stand-up anytime recently?
So no, I have not recently. I loved stand-up. I reluctantly say that in past tense, because I am like, it's always been filmmaking for me. And like when I was doing stand-up, I loved it. Like, you know, I played sports my whole life. That was the biggest adrenaline rush I've ever had in my life. Like the 40 or 50 times I did stand-up. But like, I don't know if that was equal to the amount of like mental, like I'll repeat the theme that I'm like an anxious guy. And like, I'm telling you, I was doing 4-minute sets, and for each of those, I would spend about 96 hours like freaking the fuck out about how it was going to go. And it always went fine. My parents were always there. My sister and her friends were like, my friends were always there. Like, and these were shows with like 8-9 people. I had half the audience there, but I was still like fucking panicking. So to have been able to kind of use the momentum, I think the first question was like, has that prepared me for the lights? Like, yes. Every time I go into a situation I'm nervous about, I'd like, honestly, it sounds cliche and cheesy, but like, I do think for a second, like, okay, well, at least I'm not like going on stage to do stand up right now. Like, if I could get through that, I know it's melodramatic to say, but if I could get through 4 minutes of material when I've been panicking about it for 5 days up, leading up to that, like I could sit in an interview for like 10 minutes with someone that I don't know.
So truly a Renaissance man, both a stand-up veteran and now a marathon runner with a ridiculous 3-hour, 45-minute pace. Now, Michael Angelo, is that time legitimate, and are you faster than Tyler O'Day?
I think I am. I am faster than
I
Tyler
would
O'Day.
guarantee you are.
I've seen, I got to like up my training again. But I started running because I started smoking weed again. And I was like scared that I was going to like, that I had COVID/coronavirus. So I was like, I had been like running a bit, January, February, but then I like started taking it more seriously because I started smoking again and wanted to make sure I wasn't like severely damaging my lungs, because I got right back into it and was like smoking a lot. And running was like my own proof that I like didn't have coronavirus. I was like, still am very panicked about it. But so I just started running and like found that it was like a fun outlet, and then just kept running. And actually was all too impressed this girl, because I met her, like, we have this park. I live in Williamsburg, which is like the east side of, east of the river that separates Manhattan and Brooklyn. And there's this nice, I'm going on such a tangent here. I met this hot girl at a park and she ran, and I was trying to get with her as I was trying to impress her. And it's like, oh, I ran 8 miles today. Like, hell yeah, I'm going to post that on Instagram. And then like we made out once, and then she like didn't want
already
to
worth it. Huge
for a week. Yeah, it was dope. But then I upped it to like 16 miles and threw that on Instagram. I was like, how do you like that? And then it escalated and I got to 26. But I never got back with her. But that was
if you had to choose finishing the marathon or getting back with the girl, which would have been the biggest accomplishment? Would you sacrifice the marathon for the girl?
I would sacrifice so much more than the marathon for the girl. I'd sacrifice it all.
That's fair. That's fair. Now
I'm going to be blasting this on social media too. So hopefully maybe there's still some interest. Maybe she picks up her AirPods and
if the Run Amuck podcast was built for love stories, if nothing else. We've said that since day one.
Holy shit. Again, this is the first time I've ever been on a podcast and I'm your first guest. Imagine if like this podcast creates like my future wife.
I would feel good about that, but it sets a dangerous precedent for guests to come. You know what I mean? That's a high bar to beat. Like, people will come on here. Like, I'll have, I don't know, horny dudes from the Barstool office being like, okay, Run Amuck podcast. Find me a girlfriend. Here we go.
Everyone's just getting married. Everyone's fucking on your podcast.
Now, I do have a question about a certain, perhaps now we've talked about your one punch in the face at college.
Yes.
I'm wondering if that may prepare you for a potential upcoming fight with Pirate Simon. Is there, and we're going to get into Pirate Simon at the end of the podcast. We're going to talk about his history and kind of lay out who he is.
I just heard in a boot.
Yeah.
You guys are definitely in Canada.
There we go. Do you hear the accent throughout?
That was the first time I noticed.
That was the first time. All right. There it is.
Yeah.
And so how do you feel about Pirate Simon? Because to me, look, I know Pirate listens, so I don't want to offend him, but someone who comes across as a porn guy. And so you're going up against one of the villains of the Barstool world, in a sense, someone who went at odds against Dave. Is this fight going to happen? Is the fight going to happen?
I don't know. I kind of, so I was kind of testing the waters with what I said, and it was kind of one of those things where if it picked up steam itself, like I would be, if it still had steam right now, I would be out in the middle of the streets with no shirt on and boxing gloves, fucking running down the street with my neighbor, who's actually my desk neighbor at work, who's an incredibly skilled director, Corey. We would be out filming promos for Rough and Rowdy right now.
Raw eggs going down.
Picked up more steam when it was dropped. Now, there's still a lot of time between now and the next one. I think the next one's like during the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So maybe this
man.
starts the engine of steam.
Michael Angelo, you're putting a lot of weight on this podcast shoulders, but I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. I might as well marry this girl at Rough and Rowdy.
Yeah, there we go.
Set both of those things up.
Yeah, exactly.
I would do it if anyone wants to see it. Like, I would do it. I don't have any hatred. Honestly, I don't even want to admit this because I'm proud that people do recognize that I am a stoolie, but like I wasn't too well versed in the Pirate Simon subplot. It must have just been like, I don't know. It just went past it. I knew enough about it. Yeah, it was just one of those things.
Are you familiar with it today? After kind of almost challenging the fight, do you know all the lore that happened around it? Okay.
And I do have a bit of, sympathy for Pirate Simon.
Oh, like, dude.
Right now, well, just in the porn regard, because like now I got a work computer. I just got a work laptop, full time at the work laptop now. And like every time I watch porn, which is more than it should be lately, I think to myself, like, well, I'm on a work computer. Is like, can Pete see this? Can Pete see, like,
if he can, he is. He's trying his best to. On this podcast, we call him Horn Dog Pete.
Yeah. So I do have like, I get it. I get porn. I get it. So I don't hate him from that regard. But I hate the idea of him.
I can see the Barstool Reddit now. Michael Angelo calling porn guy.
Yeah. Yeah, now, I had a good stand-up joke about that, actually. And now, you know what? Now, because of this podcast, now I'm thinking about stand-up again. So now I'm going to get married at Rough and Rowdy. And then
damn.
Right after the wedding, I'll just do a 5-minute set.
A little bit for the people.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was a bit about, I have this like habit forming app. So every day you like list out what you want to like form a habit. And, exercise, read for 30 minutes, journal, like meditate for 10 minutes. And if you do those, you like check off the box. And then over time you have like a streak. It was called chains. You're supposed to not break the chain. And one of them was don't jerk off. So I go like 7 or 8 days without jerking off, which was great because the app was helping. But then the problem was like the day that I slipped up, because I wouldn't be able to check off the box that I didn't jerk off until the next day. So it was like, the joke was that it was like the movie The Purge, where like I have 24 hours to get any and all crimes to my body. And I did, which was true. So I don't even know how I told that story. I hope it wasn't too gross, but
man, that is so funny.
Trying to remember the porn watching, but 29-year-old guy, single, quarantine. I'm high all the time. There's so many.
You're painting quite a picture of your success. Yeah. Now, you once told Dan that you were a stoolie since before 2011, and I have to ask, what has changed from an inside perspective about Barstool since? Does it feel as corporate as some veteran stoolies might want you to believe, or is it what you expected when you first joined?
So I think what was so compelling and always has been about, everyone that I've ever followed from Barstool, but obviously, we're talking about Dan and Dave and KFC here, but it was kind of like, and I know they say this and like this has been said about the personalities at the company, but like, they make people feel like they're their friends. And I know it's like through the internet and people are miles away and shit. And it's just people watching, but like, that's why they're successful as the media people that they are, is because they're just everyday guys that people like us would be friends with. And, you watch so much stuff over the years, you do kind of develop that same kind of like, oh, I know what he'd do in this situation, this and that, which is like what I wouldn't even say like I'm friend. Well, as people that I like, I want to be friends with them and we're getting closer. But as people that, and I think they think I'm their friend and they think I'm their friend.
Mm-hmm.
We could cut this part where I'm just joking my words over friendship, but But yeah, they're people that you want to be friends with because they're fun and they're cool and they're relatable. And like, that's exactly who they are in the office. Like, they don't put on any fronts in the videos. Like, what you see is what they are. And it's, yeah, it was like the only thing that was different from what I'm saying there is like my contribution to any conversations that we had. Cause like I was so nervous and I was awkward and I was like, oh, but yeah, they're all fucking really awesome people and like so supportive of each other in the office. Like it's cheesy to say, but like it's a family and like people have each other's backs and like everyone wants, it makes sense because everyone's success, like, you know, a rising tide raises all ships. Like everyone's in it to have this company continue to be successful. And like that takes every single person there. So we're all kind of glued together.
Again, it's cool to hear because, like you say, like that's why people get so enamored with Barstool is because in the new media realm, it's impossible to see what's fake, what's, you know, you look at YouTube stars, what beef has been artificially created, and now you have like Dave yelling at KFC. That's not artificially created, right? Like that's something that's been brewing for years.
Right.
And Caleb, I remember him saying, I think on the Throwing Fits podcast back when that was kind of a part of Barstool way back when. What was it called? It was the fashion podcast. It used to have a different name. It was I'm forgetting it, but they did some interviews with Stoolies, and they were in the office at times. They did a lot of work, but it was the founder of Four Pins was on there, and basically he said that Dave is exactly what you think he is, right? Same guy. And I think at the time, I don't know when it was recorded, but he likened him to Donald Trump just in that sense. I don't know how well that parallel aged, but still it's cool to see that that's kind of a through line at all the personalities of Barstool, that authenticity.
Totally. Yeah, it is. And KFC had just pointed out that Dave and Donald Trump were like the same person on the rundown only like a week ago. So it wasn't like, it's obviously so true. They're just like,
just like so unapologetically themselves, whether it's politically correct or not. And they're going to die on that hill that they are correct. Which is great. Now,
and again, like I so often, if not almost every single time, morally speaking, like totally agree with like Dave's rants and this and that. But yeah, he goes all out and he goes hard in the paint with his truths and his opinions. It's awesome.
Now, to cap us off, Michael Angelo, you said that the King Richard's Fair video where Dan, Kevin, and Dave went to the Renaissance Fair and got in trouble by the King Richard's Fair authorities for pretending to kill people was one of the most impactful internet videos you've ever seen. I'm going to give you a list of 3 old Barstool videos, and I want you to play a game of start, bench, cut. First, we have the Renaissance Fair. Second, we have Muskie breaking the AC. And third, we have Dave and Big Cat going to a professional arm wrestling club.
Okay. King Richard's Fair.
Starting.
One.
Yeah.
Always one.
How impactful was that on you? Because you have spoken about how much you love that video.
So it was the irreverence that I loved so much. It was irreverent to like authority that I saw in that video, where I'm not even talking about, you know, Sheriff Glenn or the fucking, you know, the head of security or the citation for failure to live up to the village aesthetic standard. But I mean like the bigger world context of them, you know, snubbing authority. It's like these guys are in their late 20s and their early 30s, and they're just like going out and like making a mockery out of like real world. And again, they did it in like a very respectful way. Like they weren't fucking with anyone at the fair. They like bought into it.
It seemed like people were loving them there.
Yeah, totally. But watching that in college when I too, like, yeah, I went to a fucking awesome school, but I was so focused on, there's this one story that I always remember, like I was studying for a final and I like did a bunch of Adderall, and I was like ready to roll, fucking pull an all-nighter, study for this test. And I just ended up printing out like 3 scripts to the TV show Workaholics. And I just like stayed up all night, like studying Workaholics. Because I think I was like, I'm going to fail this test anyway. And now I'm like yacked up on Adderall. Yeah. Like,
this mind's got to go somewhere.
Yeah. But wait, how'd I get there? How'd I get here?
From King Richard's.
Oh, right. So yeah, that was my mindset. Like that's what I was constantly thinking about in college. And yeah, I'm at this Ivy League school and all my friends are like talking about the interview questions that Morgan Stanley's asking them. And it's like, how many golf balls can you fit into an airplane? Like who gives a fuck? Yeah. But I'm sitting there watching them do all of that. And I like rip a bowl and watch like them fucking around at this fair of just like, again, the snubbing of like the real world. Like everyone's going off into the real world. And I was like, whoa. And it's funny that it was this kind of a video because it's like medieval times and it's a different time period. Like that video makes you feel like you're in a different time period. But like that, watching that video, yeah, there's the real world that all my friends are preparing for it. It sucks. And then there's this fake world that Barstool's created. And like, I've been making videos my whole life. I just want to make people laugh. And that's what they're doing. And that video was like a North Star for me, where it was like, if they could make something so fucking stupid, so funny, and so like widely loved. I don't even know, how big it was back then. I know it's become kind of a cult classic, but that was the idea of like, I don't have to go into the real world. I could come into this like crazy, ridiculous fantasy Barstool world. Yeah. Which again is funny because it was them in costumes as kings. I'm thinking of that Martin Lawrence movie where he like gets teleported back in time.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, watching that video was like a teleportation into the mindset of like, I have to get to King Richard's Fair, aka Barstool.
That's such a great point, because it's one of those videos where like I know exactly where I was. Like I was in the middle of some shitty summer internship. They sent me off to this like obscure basketball camp to write up stories for it. I remember I was just sitting in this tiny fucking dorm room writing up a story on like Argentina versus Ecuador, and watching this I was like, God, like this is so much more fun than this formulaic sort of internship. Like you remember exactly where you are there. And look at you now, to all your classmates who wasted their time studying. Here you are on the Run Amuck podcast, running a marathon, making out with chicks. Now, were you familiar with the Muskie? Because we've got Muskie breaks the AC. And of course the arm wrestling. You got to cut one. Were you aware of Muskie at the time, or was that kind of later that you
I remember Muskie from when I was watching like back in college. And I remember.
Could you give the people a rundown of that situation?
I actually was that the same video as the Cheese Boy video? Because I'm very familiar with the Cheese Boy video.
Okay.
I was working on, so I know the AC one, like obviously the AC was broken and Muskie like sticked like scissors through it. Right?
Yeah, and his case was the AC breaking is completely unrelated to me sticking scissors in it. Those two things it happened to be working before I stuck the scissors in, but the scissors didn't break it. They just happened to be in there. Yeah. But the Cheese Boy, explain what happened with the Cheese Boy, because that's even better. We'll go with Cheese Boy versus arm wrestling.
Okay. Cheese Boy's still 2 then.
Okay.
But the Cheese Boy was, Dave had an epic rivalry, one of his earliest rivalries, with the founder of Cheese Boy, which was this like super small, I think they had like one location at the time, like grilled cheese, like fast casual grilled cheese place. And Dave like liked it and tweeted at Cheese Boy, like, your grilled cheese is fuck or something. Like this is like 2011, 2012. Like your grilled cheese is fuck. I think might have been the exact tweet. And then he kept tweeting at Cheese Boy, and then nothing from Cheese Boy, but Cheese Boy tweeted back at Dave's wife.
At Renee, yeah.
At Renee, yeah. So
this is a purposeful, it became very clear it was purposeful.
Saying that out loud, like that sounds like a targeted attack. Like I'm going to ignore the husband.
Well, that's what Jay will say.
The wife chimes in. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fucked up.
That's why it was banned.
Yes. Yeah. So that was the rivalry. And then there's this video from that time of Muskie, and like Gaz had his finger on it, on the pulse. I think he took the photo that he sent to Dave of Muskie like buying Cheese Boy. But then the video is Dave being like, so like, was this a joke? Or like, did you actually want Cheese Boy? And Muskie like goes back and forth between what he like
flip-flops.
He's shitting bricks. You could tell like
you can't flip-flop with Dave.
And he flip-flopped like 8 times. He was like, well, it was a joke about being serious. Like it made no fucking sense.
I could feel like, because it just takes one lie and then you're in it. And then what? You're going to tell Dave, like, sorry, I was lying. You're just panicking. It's the same thing that happened with Pirate Simon. Like, you've been saying for 2 days that you didn't download pirate porn at work, but you did. Like, what are you going to say? Right. Like, yeah, I'm a liar. Like, you just have to go down and eventually just leave the company and never come back. Like, they really just went down the path of least resistance.
Yeah. And that's like, to circle, hate this phrase, but circle back to that thing about like truthfulness and like Dave doesn't have a like hesitation to say, and it's more like even when he thinks back on things, like, is this what you said? Like Dave knows exactly what he said from however many years ago. So he doesn't need to hesitate and be like, was this true or not? Like he's so quick to the trigger of just like, that is what I said. And he's like, he's often right with that stuff. Yeah. So just in general, like truthfulness is, those are two of the more epic stories of Barstool. And those guys have become Barstool villains because they lied. And like, it makes sense. Well, not necessarily lied in Muskie's case with the Cheese Boy. I think he was just confused.
I can relate to that, dude. It could have been me. It could have been me.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a good example. Like, if you are honest, and I think even in like the Pirate Simon like recap video, someone says like, or maybe it was like Big Cat on the rundown a couple weeks ago when we were talking about it, but he was like, yeah, if he just admitted that he was watching porn, like we're all good. Like,
yeah. It's a funny thing. It's a video. Dave's probably like, okay, great, we got content out of it.
Yeah, right. But yes, that's a classic video. And then the wrestling video. Arm wrestling video, there's a hilarious Big Cat does something. I think he beats the girl. And then he takes his mic. He's like, well, he said his line is so funny. It's about like, do you know it? He says something about how he like fucked up that he just like beat a girl or something.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. I can't remember the quote, but the best part, she is such a hardo too. Like they are like, you're not going to be able to handle this. And like, look, this is a podcast. This is a feminist podcast. However, Big Cat's a big dude, and this is like a regular sized woman. And yes, she arm wrestles recreationally, but she just gets crushed, and it's not close. And he just feels so bad. Like he's just walking down after like.
That's what I remember most about it. The quote is funny, but the most striking part of that video is his face right after he does it. You could tell there's like 4 seconds of like, should I have done that? Should I have like let her put up a fight? Or yeah. It's such just like visible, visceral anguish. Like facial reactions. That's like what I like doing on the rundown, the zoom ins. Like they all are they're like comedic geniuses, and down to the point of like their micro expressions. Like we're talking about that video 7 years later because of like a funny look, 5 years later, whatever it is. But because of like the look that Big Cat makes after he beats a girl in an arm wrestling competition. Like it's so specific, but it's so memorable because it is just so genuinely like relatable emotions and reactions from like guys that would be our friends.
And we have no doubt that your videos will someday be entered into the same pantheon of Barstool classics. Michael Angelo,
can I plug something real quick?
We're just about to give you the chance. Plug whatever you need. The stage is yours.
Oh, you were about to say it.
Yeah, you read my mind. Yeah.
If you had any more questions, let them
No, that was legit. That was it. You legitimately read my mind.
Perfect. Unbelievable. Perfect segue. You guys are great at this. This is a fucking awesome podcast.
Thanks, man. That's awesome.
Hell yes. So the plug is, I was just home this past weekend, and
I know what you're about to plug. Yeah,
dude. Yeah. I'm very excited about it. It's gonna take a while because I can't sacrifice any time of working on real work, which takes up all day and all night. But I'm gonna chip away at this video I made. The rundown of it is a documentary about me going home to film a mafia movie with my dad, and my uncle ends up joining as well. My dad's like a hilarious fat Italian Joe Pesci type. And like the idea of the video is like, I feel like I've quote unquote made it in the industry I've wanted to work in. And like, I so owe that to my parents, and I've wanted to make my own content again for a while now. I haven't made a lot since that era of the Shark Tank videos. Like I haven't made my own stuff, but so this is like the first entry back into making my own stuff. And like the first video I was going to make was like trying to find a way to like give back to my dad. So the premise is that we're making a mafia movie that I will take and send to talent agents to try to like launch a second career for him in acting. And he fucking crushed it. But like the real point of it was to like create a memorable experience like with my dad. Like that was my giving back to him. I love movies. I'm where I'm at because of his inspiration of like the movies he showed me. And this was like a thank you. But let me tell you, like my dad absolutely blew me away. And it sucks that you don't know him, but you will know him in a way like you will know him. This movie is going to fucking blow the doors off of, I don't know, but I'm super pumped.
And we'll see it on YouTube. So the people should follow your Instagram at, correct me if I'm wrong, Third Best MA.
Let me check. That's the Twitter one, I believe.
Okay.
No, I know that. It's at Third Best MA is Twitter. And Instagram is Michael Angelo Third Best, the number 3 for 3 RD for both of them.
Michael Angelo Third Best with the number 3. Follow it and make sure you watch it because the stills that you shared from that are hilarious. And you go all out acting too. As well.
Yeah,
you put yourself out there.
I just tweeted that the video took 10 years off of my life because I like just scream at the top of my lungs for lack of like actual acting skills. And the movie that we filmed was like 3 separate like stereotypical mafia movie scenes. So one they're like cooking spaghetti and there's a fight, and each scene we were like kind of scripting it as we go, but each scene ends with me just like I did some damage. I made a joke.
I didn't want to ask you to do a patented Michelangelo scream on the podcast, but I'm glad we got it naturally.
Yeah. And my head's already ringing. Please don't ask me to do it again. But I feel like that girl from Stranger Things, whenever she uses her powers, she like bleeds out of her nose. Yeah, whenever I use my acting powers, I give myself like a brain aneurysm and get a fucking bloody nose. But it was worth it for this film because like I had to try to match my dad's performance, and like, God, I'm pumped for people to see it.
That's awesome. Please follow Third Best MA on Twitter and Michael Angelo Third Best on Instagram. Michael Angelo, you've taken us on a ride inside the mind of Dave Portnoy, Barstool Sports, the future of media, and given us a scream that will satisfy us for podcasts to come. Thank you, my friend, and thank you to all the junkheads and stoolies that have joined along for the ride.
Yep.
Thank you. We hope to see you on the podcast again. Rate, review, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Follow Barstool Sports and subscribe to them on YouTube. Thank you, and peace.